Ideal Protein is a doctor-designed, coach-led ketogenic weight loss protocol that uses food as medicine to empower you to lose weight and live your healthiest life.
And welcome back to the Livingston Parish News Weekly Show, a podcast brought to you by the Livingston Parish News. My name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. I'm joined today by our fifth and final interview for the bond election. Early voting is over. I do apologize to the folks out there. We are getting here a week late. I do appreciate my guest's patience. Of course, if you were unaware, my mother-in-law lost her battle with cancer, and I was dealing with that last week. So my guest was very gracious in coming today, a week later than we had anticipated, but going to get this in before the general election. So good morning, sir. Go ahead and give us an introduction for those who might be listening so they can put a voice to a name.
Well, good morning. My name is Cecil Harris. I am a native of Denham Springs. Lived here my entire life. I'm one of the 3 district board members for Denham Springs District. I live here. Like I said, I've been a lifelong resident. Attended Denham Springs High School and then graduated. Went to Southeastern, played basketball at Southeastern. And so I've been here my entire life.
So you know a little bit about what's going on with this situation. So the election coming up on Saturday will, of course, be in competition with a couple of big events, but maybe that'll draw more people out. Let's hope. But today we want to talk to you a little bit about your history with Denham Springs High School, also a little bit about why you ran for school board. But then we want to talk about from a school board level. We've already talked with 4 coaches who will be pretty directly affected should this pass. But first and foremost, you were an athlete at Denham Springs High School. You know what it's like to go on campus, to play on campus. Tell us a little bit about your experience while you were a student there.
Well, I guess I lived in the heyday of Denham Springs athletics. I can remember going to playoff ball games, and all the community stores would close down. It had signs in the doors going to the ball games. So it was a close-knit community. Athletics was a very important role in this community. And, athletics to me it builds character and teams, kids working together so they learn team camaraderie. But the experience I had at Denham was a really good one. I played all 4 sports. When I was a freshman, I played just football, and in my last 3 years, I played 3 sports. And in my senior year, I played all 4 sports. It was interesting. We were called the Cinderless Wonders. We didn't have a track. We did the relays in the outfield, and the kids taking batting practice had to wait till they ran by before we'd hit a ball. We was afraid we'd hit them. We had a sand pit for our jumpers, and then we had a sawdust pit for our high jumpers and pole vaulters. And so, but back then, we didn't know we didn't have anything.
You didn't know what you didn't know, right?
Exactly. And so we enjoyed playing sports because it was, it was something that we needed to do as a student and as an athlete. But we did have a baseball field, and it's right there where the Grady Hornsby gym is right now. And of course, if you hit a ball in the street, it was a home run. If you hit it to right field, you just ran as fast as you could and got as many bases as you could get. But it was great. I mean, we had good coaches, we had good athletes. We made the semifinals in basketball my junior year, semifinals in football my senior year. So, and in baseball, we made I think we 2 ball games into the district state playoffs in baseball my senior year. So we really did well. And I think that because of that, our whole school community was it was motivating. We had a lot of school spirit. We didn't have a lot of facilities, but we made do with what we had. Of course, times have changed.
Right. So, I want to ask you a little bit about, you kind of said it, times have changed. What is it that you see? Because Denham Springs High School is the 2nd largest high school
Correct.
in the state. And as of right now, in pretty much the same position, actually minus 1 field, because a gym has replaced that baseball field. Doesn't even have a baseball field on campus. No track to speak of. Baseball and softball are off campus. So when you're talking about what you had back then versus what you had now, and what sort of a different mindset at different time, what is it you mean by that?
Well, there wasn't very many schools. I want to use track as an example. Not many schools had a track. I think Zachary had one, Woodlawn had one. So, it's kind of this thing, like you said earlier. You don't know what you don't have. You're not missing anything. So, and most high schools didn't have a baseball field. And of course, everyone had football fields except for the Baton Rouge schools. They still played at Memorial Stadium. But there were a lot of the high schools in Baton Rouge played at Goldsby Field. So nobody really had any facilities back then. So it was kind of hard for us to compare ourselves to other schools now that have passed us and gotten facilities that we don't have. And it's a drawing card for kids moving into the community.
Right, because you're on the same school board as the members from Watson as well as Walker.
Sure.
Of course, you're in the District 4-5A with Zachary, Central, Scotlandville. All of those schools have the facilities that Denham Springs does not have. What's it like being on the school board? There are two other members of the Denham Springs School District, and then they're the members from Walker and Watson. What's it like to kind of see those facilities constantly improving? Walker recently finished a huge build out. Live Oak, of course, having a relatively new football field, but a brand new softball and baseball complex right behind the football field in the back of the school. What's that like?
It's kind of hard to watch because they're actually drawing athletes from us. And not to say they've taken them away from our school, but I'm using, for example, kids moving in as an elementary student. And the families, they'll look at these other schools and they'll say, where do you want to go to school? Well, they'll go and visit 3 campuses. They might want to come to Denham Springs, but they see these other and they're a good athlete. Well, sure, they're going to choose the better facilities because that's just the nature of kids. And so that's really hurt us as far as competing for people moving into the community. So and then being the second largest high school in the state, I don't want to say it's embarrassing, but it's not acceptable.
Right.
Because, we, as Coach Beard alluded to back in his podcast, there's no reason why we can't be like a West Monroe because we're in the location right off the interstate. A lot of people are moving into the community. Our academics is, second to none because we really got a really good academic program. It's interesting. We went and visited Catholic High to look at their facilities because we did visit a number of places. And they told us the first thing that someone asked them when they come to see their campus, where's your athletic facilities? They're not interested in your academics. They want to see your athletic facilities. So, it's a drawing card. So it makes us feel kind of inept that we're not able to keep the good athletes here because they're going to other places.
Right. So, very curious. We were just talking about being on the school board. Obviously, from that standpoint, that's sort of been what you've done. You've spearheaded this movement. We're going to talk about the process in a minute, but I do want to ask why. Why did you join the school board? Of course, the seat was vacated by Buddy Mincy Jr. as he moved to the House of Representatives. They're blowing and going as we speak. Why did you run for that seat?
Well, I've been interested in the school board for a long time. Back years ago, been a long time now, I had qualified to run for the school board. But in my work that I was doing, I was selling school textbooks and I was selling to the school district. So I realized it would have been a conflict of interest. I couldn't sell anymore, so I dropped out. But I've always kind of wanted to do this. But whenever Buddy's seat became available, I just felt like this is one of the reasons I ran because I wanted to try to get some facilities because this started actually back before the flood. There was some interest in doing a track and then maybe a baseball or whatever behind the 9th grade school, but it just died after the flood. So the 16 flood kind of put everything at standstill. And as it moved through the flood process, the timing was right, because of a number of reasons. But the biggest reason that I wanted to be on the school board is to try to get these facilities for the high school. Not that I was interested in the overall aspect of serving the community for the school, because my background is education. I have a master's degree in education. I started out as a teacher and a coach, And then I went to the Department of Education as supervisor, and then I was in the textbook software my entire career. So I've been around education. I've dealt with school boards for 35 years.
Right. So you have a lot of experience with this. So as you're moving into your seat, and this is something that you wanted to do, what was it like speaking to the other two members of the Denham Springs board, or the members of the board who also represent Denham Springs? That's a better way to put it. What was it like talking to them? I mean, are y'all all in on this, all three of you? I mean, was there any difficulty saying, well, we want to renew, but we want it to go somewhere else? None of that?
No. Yeah, they both were for it. Of course, they've been around longer than I have, so they know the money's situation before. But, they just wanted to make sure that we were able to have the right amount of money, which I'm not sure we're going to, but we'll figure that out later. And then making sure that we're not asking people for more tax money. So that was another reason we did the way we did it. But no, both were in favor of doing this. They've been wanting to do it for a long time, but just the timing was not right.
Sure. And now with those bonds being now paid off, renewing them allows you this revenue stream that's unburdened, I guess you can say. What was the process like? You've already mentioned that y'all went to Catholic High to look at their facilities and that sort of thing. I mean, you started off with sort of a sales pitch. We want to do this. I know all four coaches mentioned that at some point you approached them and said, put together your, platinum pie in the sky wish list and we'll work from there. But all of that's sort of a scattered timeline. What was the process actually like, boots on the ground?
Well, after we decided we wanted to try to do this, we went to the business manager, Kim Stewart, and we said, look, how can we get some money? What can we do? Because, we've got to pay for these three schools. We do have some little money in our accounts, but we're going to have to pay 10% because the FEMA's going to pay 90% of these the new schools, but we still got to pay for 10%. So we wanted to figure out how we can get some money. So we went to the business agent, and she went to the bond people and said, look, what can we do? How can we get some money? What do we need to do? So the people who does our bonds and all, they got to doing their research, and they came up with this plan for us. And like I said, the biggest reason we didn't want to raise people's taxes, but we wanted to try to get as much money as we could. And so that's why the $13 million is the figures, because if it would have been higher than that, we would have had to ask for more money. I mean, higher millage, but we didn't want to do that. So then after we met with the bond people and they explained to us our situation and how we can get money, then we started going to different places to see their different facilities. We went to Catholic High, as I mentioned. We went to Zachary. We went to Live Oak. We went to Gulf Coast Community Junior College just to get an idea of what we could do and how we could do it. We really got a good architect. There's the Coleman Group out of Baton Rouge. At the time, they did have a local person living and kids going to school here, and that was one of the things that interested us because we want to try to keep business local.
Sure.
And but as there was two other architects that we were looking at the time, and we just felt that this would be the best one for us to do this project. So after we selected the architect, then we started meeting with them with different ideas, different concepts of what we were looking for. And the concept that we've been showing everyone was their plan in the beginning of how we could do this. And we just felt that their proposal was the best plan for us to put this together. And
I mean, there was I wouldn't call it a roadblock, but there was an initial hurdle to jump. I'm throwing some track lingo out there with Northside Baptist. And of course, they came through and sold y'all that land, which is where the softball field will be, correct?
Correct.
If you're wondering where that is, it's just on the north side of campus, just on the south side of the church. It is actually an old sand lot, I guess you can say right now, but eventually that will be the softball facility. So as a former athlete, somebody who lives in the community, somebody like you said, when, things were turning down on Friday and the game was about to be played, everybody was shutting down. How did it feel to walk up to those coaches and say, I want your wish list. We're going to push this. We want to go forward with it. What was your feeling there?
Well, first I'd like to mention about Northside. I had gone to them and made this proposal to them, and they were receptive from the beginning. And I don't know if people understand, but it's hard for a church to sell their property. I mean, it's just, but they wanted to be good stewards, and they knew that it was a big piece of this. Because if they hadn't have done that, we may not have been able to do this project because it was a big piece of it. So now I just want to give a big shout to those folks at Northside that they just really came through for us.
Sure.
So it enabled us to have everything really on campus, and
Right.
that was a big piece to this. But and then after it's been a long process for that. I mean, it started back in November, working with them, and they finally came through. But during this time, we felt like it was pretty confident. So we had gone to the different coaches and said, okay, we've got X amount of dollars, but give us your wish list. Tell us the everything that you'd like to have in your facilities, and then we'll go from there. And that's what they did. And so right now we're in the process of, actually we want to start out with fields because we have no fields. And so the architect, we've discussed the plan of, okay, we're going to build fields, we're going to build the bleachers, we're going to build the concession stands, all that kind of stuff, and make sure we have the fields and we have the money for a track and we have the money to redo the football field and the field house. And then all these other extras, we'll worry about later, but we just mainly want to make sure we have our fields first, and then we'll build into the rest of it where the money's left over. If we got to kick in some money above the amount for the bond, we'll have to wait and see, because like I was saying earlier, it depends on how much money we got to put for these 3 new schools.
Right, and that was going to be a question for later, but you got ahead of me, but that's okay. You answered the question. If there was going to be some sort of overage, were y'all going to try to push to cover it, or, on the other hand, were you just going to say we're going to have to deal with what we got? And so it sounds like that question's still kind of up in the air.
It is. I mean, we want to build it so that we can add to it later, but we do have the philosophy that, if you put something off, you may not ever get to it. And that's the problem.
Sure.
And so, if, like I was saying, if we have the money, we're probably gonna kick some in if we can. But if we can't, we just can't. But we're gonna try.
So I want to return to that question about the coaches and being able to, as a former athlete, somebody involved in the community, and I'm gonna bring this around with regard to community in a second. But what was it like being able to approach those coaches and say, "We're pushing this. I want to hear your ideas"?
Well, it's really exciting because these guys have been really patient. It's been tough. I mean, it's hard to have your kids go out and dress in the parking lot and then drive out to North Park and then you practice, or the parents have to come and take them out there. It's been hard for everybody, the parents as well as the coaches, excuse me, to have to do that. And so it's just to see the excitement in these guys that they really put some time into us. I mean, coaches work from daylight to after dark, and so do teachers. I'm not taking anything away from the teachers, but these coaches put a lot of time and a lot of effort into it, and it just to have it scattered all over the place and have to put things together to make things work. These guys have done a phenomenal job. So just to be able to go to them and say, "Hey, look, we're on the track to do this," the excitement and the interest, and I think it's motivated them, and it's motivated the athletes at the high school.
Yeah, all the coaches that came on the show all said, there's an excitement.
Mm-hmm.
These kids are excited, students are excited, faculty's excited, people are excited about the proposition of this. So when you're thinking about it from that perspective, I mean, that's very much a sort of community tying type event. Right now everything's sort of scattered. All 4 coaches mentioned the ability to pull more students and parents to school to come cheer, to come participate in these sporting events. Because, right now, pretty much basketball, soccer, and football are the only things that are played on campus. And they get the best turnout because they're right there on campus.
Right.
Echoing what they said, I mean, do you feel like this would be a community-type tying event, bringing more people onto campus to watch these sporting events?
Definitely. I can remember when we were in school, we had ball games that started right after school. And so the kids, instead of going home, they could come to the ball game, whatever it would be. It enables kids to be able to do that instead of going home and then stay at home once they get home. They're able to come and do the event, and plus being able to access your facility by not getting in a car and driving somewhere is going to help that too. And as far as the community, this is not just going to touch high school, because elementary has track programs and they have little softball games. The junior highs have track teams, and they have track events. They have a parish event. Of course, the football plays there too. So all community aspects of the school, and including some independent football, will be using this. So the entire community is going to benefit from this, not just high school sports.
So it's going to be a daily gathering place, or maybe not necessarily daily, but a lot of days of the week, there's going to be somebody gathering on Denham Springs High School campus to make use of these facilities.
Sure.
So, voting has already started. We had an early voting period. It ended just this past Saturday. We're recording this on Tuesday, April 20th. So far, the flavor feels pretty positive. You and I both went and early voted. So how do you feel? There's a little bit of concern coming up this Saturday. 2 big events going on at the same time, maybe hoping it'll draw some people out to go ahead and stop by and vote on their way out to either one. Guess time will tell. Spring elections are typically difficult to get turnout. But so far, a pretty positive view. Is that how you felt and what you've heard in terms of feedback?
Correct. I had gone to the early voting Monday and talked to Jared, the registrar voter, and he it indicated it was very positive. I think the turnout Saturday was over 100, 112, and they were anticipating 100. I think the overall early vote, it's been somewhere between 479 and 462, somewhere around in there, and they were anticipating 450. So we're all a little ahead on that. And the response of people when they leave their booth has been very positive. So I think that right now we're on track. We're doing pretty well.
So, again, elections will be the general election, the day of the election, not early voting, will be one day, this Saturday. That would be April 24th. Your polls will be open first thing in the morning and will stay open until 6:30 p.m. No, wait, I'm sorry, that's early voting. So, for regular voting, they're going to stay open until 7. So, please remember to get out and go vote this Saturday. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, just other than the fact that I want people to understand that it's not going to raise your taxes. The millage is going to stay the same, and it's a extenuation of an existing tax. It's not a new tax. It was created back in 2007, whenever we did the Jubilee schools, and everyone needs to understand that for schools to be able to do these types of capital improvements, it has to be done through bonds. We can't do it by just sales tax. There's other districts around that has a lot of industry, and you think, well, they're building their schools through taxes, but that's not true. They're doing the same thing we're doing. You get a bond, you pay it down, and when you get enough money, you either refinance it or you extend it the way we're doing it. And so, at some point down the road, we've got to build new schools somewhere around in the community. It may be a high school, it may be a junior high, maybe an elementary, I don't know. But they're going to have to refinance or extend some bonds. It'll be after I'm gone, but it's going to have to be that way. I mean, that's the only way any school or government entity can do anything is through bonds.
Right, and bonding and grant funding have become huge. Almost the way that large political entities are having to do work.
That's correct.
Anything underneath the state level almost has to go pursue some level of grant funding, federal funding, bond funding, or in a lot of cases, all three. So it's, this is commonplace. It's not anything new. For those who are concerned about it being a renewal, please remember that the Walker High School district went around and got a new millage passed to fund the bonds for their expansion. Live Oak High School did the same thing. So both of those school districts have an extra millage outside of their base. So please remember that moving forward. Election is this Saturday, April 24th. I want to again thank Mr. Cecil Harris for joining us. Please reintroduce yourself on the way out the door, if you would, please.
Okay, well, I'm Cecil Harris, a longtime resident and one of the 3 board members for the Denham Springs District.
And again, my name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you guys joining us today for the Livingston Parish News Weekly Show. Want to remind everyone that we're on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. We are once a week in print on Thursdays at $7 a month to get that in your mailbox. We're also online, www.livingstonparishnews.com. You can check out our podcasts on any podcast platform. We also upload them to Facebook and Instagram, where you can check them out in full. We do hope you have a great day. Please remember to go out and vote this Saturday, and we will see you next time.